probably hence why I was caveating it so much in terms of saying the family background, because I recognize, that's a very, going on a gap year, traveling, it's a very middle class thing. It's a very, very privileged position to be in. So I don't necessarily think, traveling is the be all and end all or the only way to improve your perspective, but it is one of different mediums. But I do think that there's huge value, especially in the South Asian community, if you can financially do it. I mean, I just saved up for my part-time jobs at university, and that funded, my traveling. But, is there a piece of how can you take a gap year? What can you do? Is it volunteering? Is it doing something completely different from what you've always been told to do, especially for our community where you place so much emphasis on education? I feel like a lot of people then don't necessarily know who they are, or what the value of themselves is, or their identity is outside of their job.
Yeah, a lot of it is just like narrow focus.
I am my job.
Narrow it off, and you come off and you see everything else.
I've come into this world to do this one thing. And then when we ask, it's inevitable. People have what we call midlife crisis. It's because they wake up one day, chaos, Jordan Peterson talks about this, chaos will come in your life so much, destroy the framework by which you live your life. Then you'll understand that it doesn't serve you anymore. But it takes that level of chaos for you to understand. But the other side to that is if we could create this heightened awareness from a younger age that broadens people and just makes more well-rounded human beings that can contribute and help in the world and live and, just prosper. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? But yes, we are that generation where it's like, our families came here, they're like, we want the best for you, safety and security. And if you think about Maslow's hierarchy, that basic human needs stuff, like we're lucky, we've got a lot of that. So we don't think about it. So we keep going up the triangle, and now we're at the point where we're like, well, how do we self-actualize? Right? So what am I really here to do? You have to be very lucky, man. Like I was thinking about this the other day. When I go to work, when I go to the gym, there's this homeless lady who's always there. And we're at a time now where most people don't carry cash. So I always think, if she comes, I look at my good deal, I'm like, I have nothing to give this lady. So sometimes I have like food items I'll give her. And one time I just put the windows, I was like, tell me what you need. What is it that you actually need? And then she said to me, she's like, yeah, actually, I could use some trainers. Okay, I was like, what size trainers do you need? And I was like, this is what we can do. This is what we need to do. And this is the way to do it. Yeah, I forgot. What were we talking about? Sorry, I lost my
Did you give her trainers?
I did give her trainers, yeah. But I lost my train of thought. I don't know why I mentioned that story.
Value, hierarchy of needs, Maslow. You went off on some.
Sorry, that's it. Sorry.
Like,
yes. So that's it. Thank you, Indy. If I tried to have a conversation with this lady and like, you need to live your best life, your best authentic life, and like the stuff I do with like when I coach people, it's not relevant, man. Like this lady needs basic things. Until you address these things, that's the privilege we have. All that stuff's done, man. This generation of instant gratification, like we have all this stuff, abundance of food, abundance of this. And it's like, then we're still like so ducky. That's what I find so interesting about our time. We have so much, we have more than we've ever had, and we're still so empty and ducky. Why? Because of identity. We don't know who we are, what we value, and why we value it. And we don't put in the work to do that introspection, to understand. And traveling, somebody told me once, it was a great line. It was something like, when you travel, because nobody knows you, you don't pretend to be something for anybody else.
You can be who you are.
You are your authentic self. Yeah. And it's liberating. That in itself is a great reason just to travel, man, and get around other people. Because then you just are who you are. Huh? Mm-hmm. With our families, with our communities, with our job, we have these facades. I'm this current for this person, this current for this person. It's like, no, you should be this one current, unified across all walks of life.
Buddy, it speaks to it's the immigrant experience, right? So we're not the only community that's had the challenge where, like you said, you focus on work, you focus on academic excellence, and that causes certain issues, right? But I think it's easy sometimes to also the analogy that I want to give, just to give some sort of different perspective, is I know we as our generation will always talk about the critical things of our parents' generation, but I do think if I use the analogy of building a house for an immigrant community, generally the first generation, they've got to come in, they've got to build the foundations, right? And that's some difficult work. That's some backbreaking work. That requires a certain level of grit, resilience, and that experience. You wear that in terms of the way you think, the way you talk. So when they come to their children, they don't necessarily realize, well, the foundation's been laid. We now need bricklayers, or we now need someone to build a roof. And those skills are different. Those skills are different to building a foundation.
Our skills are a lot softer compared to theirs. way more softer.
But so it's just communicating that piece on, just recognize, look, you've done this hard work, but the mindset you necessarily have now, there's a big chunks of it that are not going to serve me going forward. And that's very hard for our community, because we look to our parents, we look to our loved ones, and we internalize some of these behaviors in our community. So then we've got to look outside our community and say, well, what's the other thinking on this? What's the mindset of other communities and how they think? And so, if anyone listening, the only advice that I could give outside of traveling, I think something I'm just giving unsolicited advice here, guys.
Go ahead.
You can ask me, but I'm going to do it anyway.
That's what we're here for.
But one thing I think is really practical, hugely beneficial. And I wish someone said it to me sooner, especially in my career, because I've only you started doing this in the last decade, and that was actually having what I call a personal board, right? So we all go to people in our lives for some solace, some advice, some guidance,
mentors.
And when I start to have a mentoring relationship with different people, I realize the value of it. And now what I always do, I say I have a personal board, right? So every company has a board of directors. It's part of their governance, and those directors there, the CEO and the senior leadership, report to that board. The board is there to give guidance, advice, the way forward, to really impart that wisdom. So then I think to myself, if every organization has this, every individual should have their own personal board, right? Of people that they look to, but making sure they're diverse, a different perspective. So it might be someone from your family, there may be someone from your friends network, there might be someone from work, there might be from someone from a passion or another interest area, and to try and cultivate some of these individuals and to have sort of regular dialogue with them, as you mentioned earlier, in terms of that meaningful introspective conversation.
A mastermind. Yeah,
like a bit of a mastermind, and I have that regularly. So, for example, I've got individuals. There's someone who's in his middle class white guy, late 70s, lives in some rural part of Scotland, who is one of my mentors. Now, on paper, you would think, how does this person and this Punjabi guy in West London, how are they friends? How are they connected? But we both get a lot of value from that kind of mentoring relationship. So for anyone who hasn't, I think about your personal board. Write down the 10 people you go to, right, for advice. Or who would you go to for different perspectives? And I think you'd be surprised at who they are initially, and then think about who you want them to be, and how does relationships or conversations help you with some of your viewpoints or challenges that you're having with life right now.
Yeah.
Great advice. Make that sound bite. That's awesome, Indy.
That's a pretty lengthy soundbite, but I'll see what I can do.
It's absolutely awesome, man. Trying to get... who is it? Again, I'll reference Jordan Peterson, but he was like, we think we're good at thinking. We are absolutely terrible at thinking. We think we're good, right? We have no awareness, and the whole, the extension of what you're saying is having a group collective to essentially soundboard off, to get clarity of understanding what you're thinking. Is it just, or is it right? And have you thought about this, and this is invaluable. And we have a lot of these things, I feel like, when we're younger by default. I always say, we talk about mentors and coaching. Your teachers are there, man, and there's accountability that's built in. And then you get to a certain point in life and you're an adult and you're supposed to be able to do it yourself, and then you just kind of lose all these things because they're not a given. You have to go and actively seek out, people to coach and mentor you. But yeah. I like what you said there about a 70-year-old person from Scotland. I mean, the wisdom of somebody of that age, right? And this is something I used to, you have this conversation with your parents, like, you don't know what I've gone through. And it's like, man, they've seen all these things, right? And the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? Knowing something but actually doing it, embodying it, and reflecting on it, big difference, big difference. Seeking the wisdom of others is just completely invaluable. Yeah.